It's been 73 days since I last heard your voice. Not that I've been counting, but silence has its own way of keeping track. Some nights, I still catch myself checking my phone, half expecting your name to appear, half knowing it never will. Funny, isn't it? How someone can fill your world so completely and then vanish, leaving behind only echoes. We weren't perfect. We never were. But for a while, it felt like we were exactly what the world forgot how to be: honest, simple, and real. You used to say that love didn't need grand gestures, that sometimes love was just showing up, and you did, until you didn't. The first letter I ever wrote to you is still on my desk, unsent, unfinished. It starts with, "Hey you," because that's how I always began, casually. Like I wasn't terrified of how much I cared. I wrote about the day we met, that coffee shop on 8th Street. You came in late, apologizing to no one in particular. Hair slightly messy, eyes tired but kind. You asked the barista for whatever feels like a warm hug, and I remember thinking, I know exactly what that is. You sat near the window, and when the sunlight hit your face, I swear the world slowed down for a second. Not because it was cinematic or dramatic, but because something in me recognized something in you. Like two quiet souls realizing they've been listening to the same song their whole lives. That first conversation was nothing special. We talked about coffee, about the weather, about how everyone pretends to be fine. But when you laughed, I felt my chest loosen for the first time in months. You told me your favorite word was almost. You said it carried hope, that something unfinished could still be beautiful. I didn't know then how much that word would come to define us. Almost. Almost lovers. Almost forever. Almost enough. After that day, we fell into each other's lives the way rain finds its way into cracks. Slowly, softly, but inevitably. We shared playlists and late-night walks. We stayed up talking about things we never told anyone else. You always said you didn't believe in soulmates. But when you looked at me, it felt like maybe you were wrong. I didn't want forever. I just wanted the quiet moments. The sleepy mornings, the shared cups of coffee, the gentle silence that didn't need to be filled. But love, as I learned, isn't always a fire that burns out. Sometimes, it's a slow fading of light you don't even notice until you're standing in the dark. You started to drift first. Little things. Texts answered later, calls cut short, eyes that looked at me but weren't really seeing me anymore. I tried to hold on. God, I did. But love can't survive on memory alone. And every time I reached for you, it felt like holding smoke. The last time we spoke, you said, maybe we just met at the wrong time. I smiled, because what else could I do? But deep down, I wanted to say, no, we met at the right time. We just didn't stay. There's a difference. Now, some nights, I sit by the window with a cup of coffee, pretending you're still here, pretending the world didn't move on without us. The city outside hums, people still laugh, lights still change from red to green, as if the world didn't lose something when you walked away. Maybe it didn't, but I did. The funny thing about love is how it lingers. Even after the person leaves, their presence stays like perfume on an old sweater. You keep breathing them in long after you should have let them go. I still remember your voice, the way you'd say my name like it was something fragile. Now, silence says it instead. I never sent you this letter because I didn't know what it was supposed to do. Bring you back? Explain my heart? Maybe neither. Maybe it's just my way of letting go, slowly, softly, the way we began. Because some goodbyes aren't loud. They're quiet, stretched across time, hidden in words we'll never say. If I could tell you one last thing, I'd tell you this. I hope you're okay, truly. I hope you find the kind of peace we never could. I hope you drink your coffee slowly and still order whatever feels like a warm hug. And I hope when the sun hits your face through some other window, someone sees what I saw that day and loves you gently for it. As for me, I'll keep writing letters I'll never send, because maybe love isn't about being together. Maybe it's about remembering softly, without bitterness, without regret, just gratitude for the moments that were ours, for the warmth that once was, for the love that, even in its ending, still feels like a beginning. Chapter 2. After the Rain. The rain stopped just before dawn. The streets outside still glistened under the pale orange of the streetlights, each puddle catching the world like a memory too fragile to hold. I watched it from my window, the quiet aftermath of something once loud. Funny how the world always finds its rhythm again. The rain ends, the sky clears, people go on. But inside, it's still raining. A softer rain, invisible but endless. It's been weeks since I wrote that first letter, the one I never sent. I told myself it would bring closure, but the truth is, closure isn't a door you close once. It's a hallway you keep walking through, one memory at a time. And sometimes, that hallway echoes with footsteps that aren't yours anymore. I've been doing the usual things. Working, cooking, pretending I sleep well. Pretending the silence in the room is just quiet, not the absence of you. Your toothbrush is still in the bathroom. I don't know why. I guess part of me still wants to believe you'll come back for it. But I know you won't. It's strange how something so small, so ordinary can hold so much ache. I went for a walk this morning. The air still smelled of rain, that soft, earthy scent that always made you smile. You used to say the world smelled clean after it cried. I didn't understand it then. Now I do. Some sadness isn't meant to be hidden. It's meant to wash us clean. There's this coffee shop down the street. Not our coffee shop, but close enough to make my heart hesitate when I walk by. I stopped there today. Ordered something new. Something you never tried. The barista asked for my name, and for a second I almost said yours. I don't know why I do that, why I keep letting your name sit on the tip of my tongue, like a habit I can't break. Maybe grief isn't just sadness. Maybe it's repetition. Repeating your name in my head until it feels like prayer. When I sat down, it started raining again. Soft, slow drops against the window. The kind of rain that doesn't ask for attention, just stays long enough to be felt. And for a moment, I let myself imagine you there, sitting across from me, fingers wrapped around your cup, eyes soft, smiling that tired, kind smile you always had when you didn't know what to say. I could almost hear you say, "It's just coffee. Don't overthink it." But I always did. Overthought, overfelt, overloved. The rain got heavier, and for the first time in a while, I didn't move. I let it fall. Outside, everything blurred. The lights, the cars, the people. And somehow, I felt closer to you. Because that's what we were, weren't we? A blur. Beautiful for a while, too fleeting to last. You always said I was too sentimental, that I gave meaning to everything. A song, a scent, a moment. You said life wasn't poetry, but I think you were wrong. Life is poetry. We just don't always understand the verses until they're over. And you were my favorite line. After the rain stopped, I walked home slowly. The city smelled like wet pavement and forgiveness. I passed by the park we used to go to. The one with the crooked bench and the trees that never seemed to lose their leaves. The bench is still there, the trees too, only we're gone. I sat there for a while, watched strangers pass by, some laughing, some in love, some walking fast like they had somewhere to be. And for the first time, I didn't envy them. I just watched. Maybe healing starts there, when you stop wishing to trade places with someone else and start learning to live where you are. At night, the silence feels different, not empty, just quieter. I used to fill every quiet moment with thoughts of you. Now, I let them pass. Not because I don't care anymore, but because caring doesn't hurt as much as it used to. You taught me that love doesn't always mean holding on. Sometimes it means letting someone go and still wishing them sunlight. I think that's what I'm learning now. Last week, I found your sweater. The gray one you left draped over my chair that night. We stayed up talking until morning. It still smells faintly like you. That mix of rain and cedar and something soft I never could name. I held it for a long time, not crying, not breaking, just remembering. There's a kind of peace that comes after the storm, not because it didn't hurt, but because you survived it. I think that's what this is. Not happiness, not closure, just survival that doesn't ache as much anymore. I still write sometimes. Not letters to you, not anymore. Just words, half thoughts, unfinished lines, like tiny prayers I whisper into the night. Maybe one day they'll turn into something more, a story, a poem, or maybe they'll just stay what they are, quiet confessions meant for no one but me. Either way, I'm learning that words can heal too. There's something tender about pain that softens over time. It doesn't disappear, it just changes shape.
It becomes the song you hum without realizing, the memory that no longer burns, the silence that finally feels safe. That's how I feel about you now. Safe. Not because I stopped loving you, but because I learned to love you differently, without needing you here. It's late now. The city has gone to sleep. The rain has stopped again. Only the soft sound of droplets falling from the rooftops remains. I sit by the window, watching the reflection of the streetlights ripple in the puddles. For the first time in a long time, I don't wish for your call. I don't replay our last goodbye. I just sit here, breathing, grateful for everything. The love, the loss, the lesson. Maybe love isn't about forever. Maybe it's about after. After the tears, after the silence, after the rain. It's about how gently you learn to live again, how softly you hold the memory, how bravely you open your heart to the next sunrise. And when it rains again, because it will, you'll know it's okay. Because now, you've learned that even after the rain, the world still smells like hope.
Chapter 3. The Silence Between Us. Silence used to scare me. After you left, it filled every room, every minute, every thought. It wasn't peaceful, it was heavy, like a ghost that refused to leave. I used to keep the TV on all night, music in my ears during the day, just to drown out the quiet. Because in the silence, I could still hear you. The echo of your laugh, the rhythm of your footsteps in the hallway, the sound of your voice saying my name in that soft, half-asleep way. Even when you were gone, you were everywhere. It's strange how absence can be so loud. People think silence is empty, but they've never been alone after love. In that kind of silence, every little thing becomes a reminder. The clink of a spoon, the creak of the chair, the hum of the refrigerator. Each sound becomes proof that life is still moving, even when your heart isn't. And at first, that feels unbearable. I remember the first morning I woke up alone. The sheets were still warm on one side, the sun already creeping through the curtains. For a second, I forgot. I reached out, half asleep, half hopeful, but my hand met only air. That moment hurt more than the goodbye, because that was the moment I realized you were really gone. I tried to fill the silence with noise. I played your favorite songs, watched our old shows, even called friends I hadn't talked to in months. But nothing helped. Everything sounded off key. Everything felt too loud, too bright, too fast. Grief slows the world down. It makes every second feel stretched, like time itself is mourning with you. And so I stopped trying to fight it. I let the silence stay. At first it hurt like an open wound. Every quiet hour was another reminder of everything we'd lost. But slowly, almost imperceptibly, the silence began to change. It softened. It became less of an intruder and more of a companion. The same stillness that once echoed your absence began to reflect something else. Me. I started hearing my own thoughts again. Not the anxious ones that asked, "Why did you leave?" But the quieter ones that whispered, "You're still here." In the beginning, that didn't feel like much. But over time, it became everything. Because silence, I realized, isn't just what's left when someone's gone. It's what's always been there, waiting for you to listen. I found your old notebook one evening. You used to write in it when you couldn't sleep. Tiny, restless thoughts, half-finished poems, little pieces of your heart scattered between blank pages. On the last page, you wrote, "Sometimes silence says more than words ever could." I don't know when you wrote it. Maybe before we met. Maybe after we ended. But it felt like you'd left it there for me to find. And for the first time in months, I didn't cry when I read your words. I smiled. Because maybe that's what silence really is. A bridge between hearts that can no longer speak, but still understand. Nights are different now. I still sit by the window, but I don't wait for your name to appear on my phone anymore. I watch the city lights blink, the way they fade and return. A soft reminder that everything comes and goes in its own rhythm. Some nights are still hard, some memories still sting, but they don't destroy me anymore. I've learned to let them pass, like wind through an open window. People say time heals everything, but I think it's not time that heals, it's silence. Because in silence, you're forced to face yourself. And when you do, you start to see the difference between missing someone and losing yourself in the missing. I missed you for so long that I almost forgot what my own voice sounded like. Now, when I speak, I don't hear the ache anymore. I hear softness. I hear peace. I still think of you, not with longing, but with gentleness. You were a chapter, not the whole book. And I've learned that it's okay to love someone without needing them to stay. Some people come into your life to show you what love feels like. Others come to teach you what letting go looks like. You were both. Sometimes I wonder if you think of me too. Not in the way that hurts, just in the quiet moments, when it rains, or when a song comes on that used to belong to us. I don't need to know. I just like to believe that maybe, somewhere, we both pause for a second and smile at the same memory, and that's enough. Silence taught me how to listen, not to you, not to the world, but to my own heart. It's quieter than I thought, and softer. It doesn't rush anymore. It doesn't beg. It just beats. And that's what love becomes after the storm. A steady heartbeat in the calm. Last week, A friend asked me if I'd ever fall in love again. I didn't know what to say at first. For so long, love meant you. But now, it feels different. It feels like something I could hold again, carefully, honestly, without fear of losing myself inside it. Because the silence between us didn't just take something from me, it gave me something too. The space to rediscover who I was before I loved you, and who I've become because I did. The other night, it rained again, a soft, steady drizzle that lasted for hours. I sat by the window, the same spot where I once wrote letters to you, and listened. No music, no distractions, just the rain and me. It sounded different this time, not like sadness, like rhythm, like breathing, like life. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't wish for the sound of your voice, because the silence between us had finally become enough. You taught me love, but silence taught me peace. And maybe, just maybe, that's how I know I've healed. Because now, when I think of you, it doesn't echo. It just hums, softly, gently, like the closing line of a song I once loved, and still hum from time to time. So this is not a goodbye letter. It's a thank you whispered into the quiet. Thank you for the love, for the ache, for the space between words where I found myself again. Because in the silence between us, I finally heard something I hadn't in a long time. My own heart, beating softly, steadily, enough. Chapter 4, The Things We Never Said. Some words never find their way out. They stay inside your chest, quiet, trembling, like birds afraid to fly. I used to think if I had one more chance, I would tell you everything I never said. But the truth is, I had so many chances. I just didn't take them. And now all that's left are echoes of conversations that never happened. Do you remember that night on the rooftop? The city below us was alive. Cars rushing by, distant laughter, the hum of the world moving on. But up there, it felt like time stopped. You were talking about your dreams, the kind that scared you and excited you at the same time. You said you didn't know if you'd ever be brave enough to chase them. And I wanted to tell you, you already are. You're braver than you think. You make everything you touch feel possible. But I didn't. I just smiled and said, you'll figure it out. Such small words for such a big love. There are so many things we never said. I never told you how your silence after an argument scared me more than the argument itself. Or that every time you said, I'm fine, I wanted to hold you until you weren't pretending anymore. I never told you how I memorized the way your eyes softened when you looked at me, as if even the world itself could rest for a moment. I never told you how sometimes, when I couldn't sleep, I'd replay our first conversation in my head. The way you laughed, how your hair fell into your eyes, how the night air felt lighter after that. And I never told you that, even when things got bad, even when we were falling apart, a part of me still believed we'd find our way back. Maybe that's what hurts the most. Not the things we said, but the things we left unsaid. Because words can wound, but silence can haunt. There was one night, you probably don't remember. We were sitting by the river. The air smelled like rain. You were quiet, lost in your thoughts. I wanted to ask, what are you thinking about? But I was afraid the answer would be leaving. So I said nothing, and you said nothing. And the silence between us grew, slowly, like a wall neither of us knew how to tear down. Looking back, I see it now. The distance didn't appear overnight. It built itself out of every word we swallowed, every truth we were too scared to speak. Love can survive many things: time, distance, even pain. But it struggles with silence, because silence doesn't just hold space, it fills it. And once it does, it's hard to find your way through. Sometimes I write letters I'll never send. They start with, "I hope you're doing okay," and end with, "I miss who we were." In between, there are paragraphs of everything I wish I could have told you. That I'm sorry for the nights I pulled away when I should have held on. That I still dream about the day we met. Not because I want to go back, but because that was the last time I felt untouched by what was coming. That you changed me. Not in the way people talk about heartbreak, but in the way people talk about growth. Slowly, painfully, beautifully. I used to think closure was a conversation. That one day we'd sit across from each other and say all the things we never said. But now I think closure is quieter than that. It's the acceptance that some stories don't end with a period, just a lingering pause. It's realizing that sometimes the most honest goodbyes are the ones you never speak out loud. I remember once you asked me, "What do you think love really is?" I froze. Because how do you answer something like that? I wanted to say, love is the space between two people, how they fill it, and what remains when they can't. But I was scared it would sound too heavy, too final, too much like a goodbye. So instead I said, "I don't know. Maybe we'll figure it out someday." You smiled, and maybe you knew, even then, that we wouldn't. Sometimes I still think of that smile. Not the happy one you gave to strangers, but the small, tired one you gave to me when you were trying to be okay. I wonder if you smiled like that the last time you thought of me. People ask if I regret loving you. I don't, not even a little. If anything, I regret the moments I held back, the words I never said, the fears I let win. Because love, when it's real, deserves to be spoken. Even if it breaks you, even if it ends. Silence may feel safe, but it steals the chance to be understood. One night, months after you were gone, I found myself whispering to the dark, "I loved you." Just that. Nothing more. No expectations, no tears, just truth. It didn't bring you back, but it brought me peace. Because even if you never hear it, even if the world forgets us, the words are finally free. Sometimes, late at night, I imagine what it would be like if we met again, years from now. Maybe at a cafe, maybe at the train station. You'd smile that small smile again. I'd ask, "How have you been?" And you'd say, "Better." We'd talk for a while, about nothing and everything. You'd tell me about your new life, and I'd tell you about mine. And somewhere in between the laughter and the pauses, I'd look at you and realize that I don't ache anymore. That love didn't leave a wound. It left a scar, yes, but one that doesn't hurt to touch. We never said goodbye properly. Maybe that's why I kept writing to you in my head. But now, I think I understand something. Not every story needs an ending. Some just fade, softly, like the last note of a song, carried away by the wind. And that's okay, because we were never meant to last forever. We were meant to matter. And we did. There's one more thing I never said. Something I didn't even admit to myself until recently. It's this. I'm grateful. For you. For us. For every messy, beautiful, painful moment in between. Because through you, I learned what it means to feel deeply, to open my heart even when it's terrifying, to love even when it's uncertain. You taught me that vulnerability isn't weakness. It's courage in its purest form. And even though we ended, I carry that lesson with me. Every day. If somehow, someday, you find these words, maybe hidden in an old notebook, or drifting across the internet, or whispered by fate into a quiet night, I hope you know this. I loved you honestly. I loved you quietly. And I loved you enough to let you go. We may never speak again, but somewhere between the words we never said and the ones we finally did, I found something like forgiveness. For you, for me, for everything. And maybe that's all love ever asks of us. To feel, to learn, to release. Now, when I think of you, it's not with pain, it's with gratitude. For every silence, every almost, every unspoken word that shaped who I am. Because sometimes, what we don't say becomes the truest part of the story. Chapter 5. The Last Goodbye. It happened quietly. No storm, no final argument, no dramatic scene like the ones you see in movies. Just a silence, the kind that tells you a chapter has finally ended. For a long time, I thought goodbyes needed to be loud. Tears, words, final looks, promises we knew we'd break. But now I know. Sometimes the softest goodbyes are the most real. The last time I saw you, you didn't even know it was the last. You were standing by the window, hands in your pockets, watching the rain slide down the glass. I remember thinking how strange it was that something as gentle as rain could sound so much like an ending. You turned to me and smiled, that small, tired smile again, the one I had memorized by heart. We didn't say much, just small talk, the kind that fills the air when two people have already said everything that mattered. And when you left, you didn't look back. I thought that would break me. But somehow, it didn't. Maybe because deep down, I knew you weren't walking away from me. You were walking toward yourself. And for the first time, I didn't want to stop you. For days after, I kept waiting for it to hit me. The collapse, the heartbreak, the tears that wouldn't stop. But it didn't come. Not like before. The pain was still there, but it was quieter, like an ache that had learned to breathe. I made tea, cleaned the apartment, folded the laundry. Normal things, small things. And with each one, I realized that life doesn't stop when love does. It just shifts, slowly, gently, like sunlight moving across the floor. I started noticing details again. The sound of morning birds, the way dust floats in the light, the taste of coffee when it's just a little too bitter. Little things I used to overlook when my world revolved around us. And I thought, maybe healing isn't a moment. Maybe it's 1,000 quiet mornings when you finally start seeing beauty again. One evening, I found an old box, the one where I kept everything that reminded me of you. Photographs, letters, the movie ticket from our first date, a keychain you bought me at the seaside. I sat on the floor and went through each item, one by one. For a while, it hurt, but not in the way it used to. It was the kind of ache that comes with remembering something beautiful and knowing it's okay that it's gone. When I was done, I didn't throw the box away. I just closed it, put it on the top shelf. Some memories deserve to stay, just not too close. A few weeks later, I dreamed about you. We were back at that little cafe by the river, the one that always smelled like cinnamon and rain. You were sitting across from me, wearing that faded denim jacket I loved. You looked the same, except calmer, lighter. In the dream, we didn't speak. We just sat there, watching the rain. And when you smiled, I realized this wasn't a memory. It was a farewell. When I woke up, the sun was rising. And for the first time, I didn't feel the weight of missing you. I felt peace. They say healing happens in layers, that one day you'll wake up and realize you haven't thought about them in weeks. Then you'll hear their name and not flinch. Then you'll see someone who reminds you of them and just smile. I used to think that sounded impossible, but now I know it's true. Because healing isn't about forgetting, it's about remembering without pain. A few months later, I ran into your friend at a bookstore. He told me you'd moved to another city, that you'd started painting again, that you seemed happy. I smiled, and I meant it. It's strange how love can change shape, how it can shrink from something consuming to something gentle. There was a time I thought I couldn't live without you. Now, I simply hope you're living well. That's what love becomes after goodbye. A wish, not a wound. Sometimes I still visit the places we used to go, not because I'm trying to hold on, but because they remind me of who I was when I loved you. And I like that version of me, the one who believed in connection, who stayed up late talking about dreams, who loved fearlessly, even knowing how it might end. I don't want to lose that part of myself, because it wasn't just love that ended, it was a chapter of my becoming. One afternoon, I sat by the lake again, the same spot where we once planned our future. The air was cool, the sky soft with clouds. I closed my eyes and whispered, "Thank you." Not to the wind, not to the world, but to you, for being my favorite story, even if it wasn't my forever one. I used to think the end meant final, but now I know it just means change. We don't lose people, we carry them differently. In words, in habits, in small moments that no one else notices. Sometimes I still catch myself saying something you used to say, or laughing the way you did. And for a second, it feels like you're here. Not as the person I lost, but as the memory that helped me grow. Last month, I started journaling again. Not letters to you, just thoughts. About mornings, dreams, people, hope. The first page says, "This is the story after the ending." Because that's what this is now. Life after love. Different, but still beautiful. I met someone new recently. Not in the way movies show it. No sparks, no whirlwind romance. Just quiet understanding. Patience. He listens when I talk. He doesn't try to fix my silences. He just shares them. And I realize something. You were my fire. He's my calm. Both beautiful, just different. And I think that's what growth looks like. Not replacing, but redefining. The other night, I walked home under the streetlights. The air was cold, the kind that makes you pull your jacket tighter and breathe little clouds of white. I thought of you, not because I missed you, but because the world felt tender again, and somehow that still reminds me of you. I smiled into the dark and whispered, "Goodbye." And I meant it. Not the kind of goodbye that begs the past to stay. The kind that honors it, then lets it rest. I think love is like the sea. It comes in waves, washes over everything, leaves pieces of itself behind. You can't hold the tide, but you can be grateful for the time you floated. That's what we were, a tide that came, soft and strong, and eventually receded. And that's okay, because even when the sea leaves, it still leaves the shore more beautiful than before. If I could speak to the version of me who once cried over you, I'd tell her this: you'll laugh again, you'll sleep through the night, you'll fall in love with small things, the smell of rain, the taste of coffee, the warmth of sunlight on your skin. You'll learn that healing doesn't mean forgetting, It means remembering with peace. And one day, you'll tell this story not with sadness, but with gratitude.
I'm telling it now. So here it is. Our last chapter. Our last goodbye. Not written in anger. Not carved in regret. But spoken softly into the night. As a prayer for both of us. Wherever you are, I hope you're happy. I hope the world feels kind to you. I hope you found the courage to dream again. And I hope that, somewhere deep down, you know, I'm okay too. Because I am. I'm not the person I was when we loved each other. I'm someone new. Someone shaped by love, by loss, by silence, by letting go. And if this is the last time our hearts ever meet, I just want you to know, you mattered. You always will. So this is it. No tears. No letters. Just peace. The story of us ends here. Not with pain, but with gratitude. Because even though we said goodbye, love still lingers. Not as a wound, but as light. And when I look up at the stars tonight, I'll whisper your name. One last time. Not to call you back, but to thank you for being part of my sky.